I want to talk about the brain's basic design and how it can lead to some really bad investing decisions. There was an article, it was in Think Advisor, written to financial advisors, and it was talking about how U.S. equity funds saw huge outflows in the month of April. And a lot of this came from a mutual fund that is used by do-it-yourself investors, so they got hit particularly hard. This didn't just happen in the U.S., it also happened with Canadian mutual funds as well. Now, what we see here in this chart tells the whole story. It was actually a chart that I used in my book, Confident Investing, where you see that investors, after market upturns, they tend to buy stocks in stock mutual funds. After market downturns, they tend to sell. So they buy high and sell low. Now, Matthew Lieberman actually explains why this happens. He's a neuroscientist, and he says there's an inverse relationship between the amygdala, that's where the emotional center of the brain, and the prefrontal cortex, where rational thought and judgment sit. When the amygdala is active with blood and oxygen, there is less activation in the prefrontal cortex. Our thinking power is disrupted, and there are deficits in our problem solving because the blood and oxygen are in the amygdala versus the prefrontal cortex. He said it's like losing 10 to 15 points on your IQ temporarily. Well, why is that important? Well, the average IQ of humans is about 100. So take 100 minus 15 and you've got 85. Well, why is that important? Well, Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist, says that he looks at the military and he says the military's been studying IQ for a long time because they've got to make sure that they're an efficient fighting machine. He says in the American military, you can't induct anyone into the armed forces if they have an IQ of less than 83. We're at 85, remember? He says after 100 years of research, essentially of careful statistic analysis, the armed forces concluded that if you have an IQ of 83 or less, there wasn't anything that you can possibly be trained to do in the military at any level of the organization that wasn't positively counterproductive. Well, think about that as an investor. Literally, we have the same thing going on. This is why investors make such bad decisions, and that is why we use investment policy statements with our investors. What we literally have is a policy statement that says exactly what we're going to do during market downturns. It helps actually protect us from an amygdala hijack.